All right, welcome back to the Big Dog Podcast. You know, compressed air can be one of those things people just kind of forget how risky it really is. I've seen so many folks treat an airline like it's just, I don't know, like flipping a switch or something. But here's the deal. Compressed air has all kinds of hidden hazards. There's the pressure in lines, springs under tension, even robotic arms programmed to move whether anyone's ready or not. Honestly, it's not like electricity where you can bust out a voltage meter, double-check it's dead, and feel pretty good about what you're touching. You can't see compressed air, and you definitely can't just assume the line is safe because you heard a hiss and think it's depressurized.
Totally. And you'd be surprised, right? I mean, so many people are super cautious with electrical lockout because everyone knows electricity bites, but then compressed air somehow doesn't get the same respect. And sometimes it's even more unpredictable. Plus, there could be stored air in the tank, in the lines, especially in loop systems where pressure can sneak back in from another direction if you don't isolate properly.
Yeah, and that brings to mind this story from a while back. There was this maintenance tech, really sharp guy, thought he'd followed all the steps for safe shutdown. He tagged the main valve, figured he was good to go. But he didn't catch that the isolation valve had this little leak. So the chamber he was working on actually started to refill with air. Next thing you know, bam. Air shoots out, tools flying. He's lucky he got away with just a scare and not a serious injury. That's why I always tell people, you can't just lock out and hope. You gotta verify, and honestly still keep your guard up because leaks and weird surprises happen way more than people realize.
That's a perfect point. And just thinking back to our episode on leak detection, not every hazard makes noise, right? A tiny valvey leak can build up a bunch of pressure without you ever knowing. So when folks say, "Oh, it's quiet, must be safe," nope, that's not the way to think about it. I guess the main thing is, never get complacent and remember lockout, tagout isn't just an electrical thing. It's absolutely critical for compressed air too. So let's break it down into the essentials. What does a solid compressed air lockout procedure actually look like? I mean, you have to start by shutting down the compressor, and you absolutely need to follow the manufacturer's instructions, right? Because everything else relies on the whole system being powered down safely from the start.
Exactly. And after that, you want to isolate every source of pneumatic power. That means closing those main air supply valves, any dryers, and really, anything that could push air back into the system. It's wild how many setups I've seen where folks forget to shut a dryer off and boom, the line still got pressure.
Yeah, guilty as charged. I've absolutely forgotten that before. And once you've got everything isolated, you need to release all that stored energy from tanks and downstream piping. Open those drains, but slowly. If you yank them open, you're liable to get blasted or stir up a ton of dust and junk, right?
Yep, always open slowly. You don't need surprises. And once it's drained, this is the big one. Lockout devices on every valve, please. I can't say this enough. Padlocks on main valves, everyone working needs their own lock so you know nobody's pulling a valve on you by mistake. And for real, before you dive into repairs, check the pressure gauges and try starting the compressor to make absolutely sure it won't run. Only then are you green lit for maintenance.
That's one of those steps people rush through because they think, "Oh, I'll be quick." But like you said, every worker needs their individual lock, period. Hey, so Jason, I gotta ask, what's your toughest lockout, tagout memory? Was there ever a moment where you just said, "Nope, not worth the risk"?
Oh yeah, I've been there. Once early in my career, I was brought into this job and noticed the installer had used flexible PVC piping right next to a robotic arm that swung around for tool changes. Just looking at it, I could tell that line was an accident waiting to happen. If that arm clipped the pipe, you could have shrapnel or even a catastrophic release. I walked straight off the site, told the supervisor I wouldn't touch it until it was fixed. My motto's always been, if you don't feel safe, you walk. And honestly, there's more power in protecting yourself and your coworkers than there is in getting the job done fast.
That's so important. And really, it reminds me that shortcuts during installation or maintenance come back to bite you. Noticing unapproved parts or workarounds, especially in that last dirty 30 feet before end use, is where a lot of safety issues hide. So that brings us to the part that honestly gets overlooked the most: ongoing vigilance. Like, it's not just about having a good procedure on paper. It's about treating compressed air like it really could hurt you. Because it can. Every team member should be trained to respect every lock, every tag. There are no exceptions. Nobody should ever touch a locked or tagged device, period. That's a hill I'm gonna die on.
Right there with you. And look, maintenance is where so many problems creep in, especially with pressure relief valves. People forget them, upsize them, bypass them altogether because they trip too often. But they're like a fire extinguisher. Most days you don't need them, but when you do, well, you want them working 100%. Regular inspection and making sure nobody messed with those relief settings is a must. I mean, treat any change to your relief valve as a red flag. That safety backup is there for a reason.
And sometimes folks think, I've never had a relief valve fail, so why not skip the check? That's a dangerous game. I was actually on a plant visit with one of Cation's local partners recently, and you know what? The tech spotted a main air valve with, get this, a missing lockout, like totally unlocked, just sitting there. Could have been a disaster. It took a fresh set of trained eyes to even notice because everyone else had gotten used to walking by it every day.
Yeah, and that's why local pros are so valuable. They've seen everything. Bad installations, weird hacks, and they know what safe looks like. Plus, getting them involved means you're not just relying on tribal knowledge or hoping nothing goes wrong. They'll review your setup, spot those easy-to-miss issues, and train your team with real hands-on examples. It's not about passing an audit. It's about everybody going home safe, every shift.
Exactly. And I think that's a good way to wrap it. If you're listening and you're not sure if your lockout, tagout practices are up to snuff, reach out to a local Cation partner or another trusted compressed air specialist. It's always worth taking the extra step for safety. We'll see you next time for more down-to-earth advice and plenty more no-nonsense takes. Thanks as always, Jason.
Thank you, Lisa. Always a blast. And hey, everyone, stay safe out there. Catch you on the next Big Dog Podcast.